All right. Hello. Welcome to Dani Golden's podcast. I am recording my first ever podcast with Miss Heidi Bacani. How are you
Hi,
doing?
Danny. Hi, Danny. I'm well.
So, this is our third time trying. The first time was a practice run
It's all good.
to test the software. The second time, my computer froze. So, third time's lucky charm.
Yes, yes.
But it also gave me an opportunity to change some of the questions up. And so thank you so much, Heidi, for your
Oh,
time, your resources,
my
and your
pleasure.
knowledge.
All my pleasure. Yeah.
Um, so Heidi is a licensed marriage family therapist, and we feel very fortunate. Well, I feel very fortunate to have her on. Um, it's just always, life is challenging enough as it is. So I felt like having a license
Mm,
access to someone with your knowledge, having a licensed family therapist on would be a great way for people to get access to information that they might not normally have access to,
hmm
and resources, which is always helpful.
Yeah, I think it can be helpful for sure to talk about resources, to as many and reaching an audience this big is like really a good thing.
Yes,
hmm
agreed. Um, so the first question I'll ask is, how long have you been a licensed marriage family therapist?
I have been a licensed marriage family therapist for approximately 20 years. I graduated in 2005 with my master's in clinical psychology, and then I went on to work. While I was in grad school, I started my internship at Del Amo Hospital in Torrance, and I stayed there for 7 years in the intensive treatment unit. I collected all of my hours there towards my license. Oh, that's not true. I collected most of my hours there towards my license, but I also, as soon as I could start seeing people in private practice, I did that even prior to graduation, actually. So,
Oh,
um,
wow.
yeah, I've been in private practice a long time, even, under someone else's license. I've been in private practice for around 20 years as well. But um, simultaneously working for a hospital setting, I was also a social worker at a hospice company. I also worked for a private insurance company as a crisis clinician.
Oh, wow.
Also worked as a behaviorist for many, many group homes. One of the group homes I worked for was a 60-bed group home.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, lots of experiences. um,
Definitely. You definitely are not qualified. You have enough experience.
Lots of experiences. Yeah, don't let the master's, level like fool you. Just because someone has a master's level doesn't mean that they don't have like this breadth of like knowledge and experience. So we can do a lot of things with a master's. And I think
Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
a lot of people search for the, doctor initials, after someone's name, but people with a master's degree are highly qualified to be providers as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that a good segue for you?
That's a great segue. That's a great segue. I just want to make sure I'm not frozen the whole time.
Oh, you're good. You're
Um,
good.
okay, okay. Um, yeah, I know. What made you want to be a licensed marriage and family therapist?
Oh, I love it when you ask me the question, Danny. Um, so it started pretty early in life, this aspiration, and it wasn't, I wasn't like fully aware of this, what it would mean to want to be one, or that I really wanted to be one. I I just remember sitting across from my therapist, in my 13-year-old brain, thinking, she's a really nice lady. I really feel safe with her. And I feel like I could tell her anything. I'm going to cry and just like be my 13-year-old self. And she was so kind. Um, and then from time to time, I would look around her office and I would notice little details like her furniture and her beautiful clothes and the beautiful photos she had of her and her family and the beautiful artwork. And I remember thinking, that looks so stable. And I think even as a little person, I thought, I just want stability in my life. That's all I want. And this
Yeah.
lady really presents that. So I think that's where the notion came about, that this could be a really good life and it could be
Hmm.
work that I really want to do. And, um, along the way, I experienced how exciting and stimulating and satisfying, and I could still make a good living, to be able to afford my life. So it started in high school, and bit by bit, in different places I would volunteer at, this calling I had to help people just like got bigger and bigger. And this definitely supported, who I was as a person, this kind of work. So yeah, 13. My mom was really smart. She had the wherewithal as, as a single mom working, 50 hours a week, to recognize that she couldn't give me everything I needed to have, to learn to be a highly effective human being. So she was smart
Yes.
to, like, like we've joked about, it takes a village. Like, I think she was smart enough to identify, people that she could insert into my life and help me along the way.
Yes, it does
Yeah.
take a village.
Mhm.
I think that I love that story. I think that's just so amazing. And you and I've talked about this. As much education as you can get in school, there aren't classes that teach you how to deal with navigating your emotions and
Mhm.
navigating the difficult things that therapy really helps or has helped
Mhm.
me do.
Right.
Um, and being a highly sensitive person, just such as myself, I didn't know until
Mhm.
one therapist was told me to read that book, and because I was like, I don't understand, why am I feeling this, why am I feeling that, is everyone
Mhm.
built like this? And as much as we're the same, we're also different, and we all have our own challenges, and to have a
Mhm.
sounding board and someone who's an attentive listener, it's just and feel safe and get to
Mhm.
that stability point. And for me, it was ultimately finding that serenity, that peace.
Mhm.
It's just huge. It's
Yeah.
priceless.
Yeah. Priceless. Really helps with development, wherever we're stuck in our development. Um,
Yes.
and everyone has stuff. Everyone has trauma. Everyone has, some hard, horrendous experience that they've been through, and that can impact us in so many ways, physically, emotionally, psychologically. And therapy is a place where we can unpack that and figure out,
Mhm.
from where do we go, from that experience, and what do we do with those what do we do with that experience? What do we do with those emotions that are like holding us back from, um, whatever goals we have, whatever dreams we have, so
Yeah, or just enjoying life.
right. Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
I always imagine, I have this visual when you were talking of, those rubber band balls where they tie they it's all just rubber bands one on top
Mhm.
of another. I feel like
Mhm.
that's how I was when I went into therapy at the beginning. And
Mm.
then it was like, first you take off one, then you
Mhm.
take off, and then you finally look at the ball, the person, the center,
Yeah.
and you're like, who am I? Where do I go from here?
Mhm.
And I just
Mhm.
think it's a beautiful process.
It
It's
is. It
painful
is.
but beautiful.
It is. It is. Really does feel like that's a really good analogy, I think, or metaphor, that like the rubber band, each rubber band like coming off layer by layer. Yeah, it's very precise way of describing the process, I think.
Yeah, that's just how
Yeah.
I felt. I was like, what rubber band are we at? Are we at the ball yet? Or whatever's underneath? Because
Right, right. Right.
I'm like, I'm not even at the finish line, and I don't know, and I don't know that there is one, right? If you're not learning, you're not living, right? And if you're not growing, my grandmother used to always say that. She would say, if you're not learning, you're dead. So, and I feel, whether you're learning about yourself or you're learning a subject in school, if you're not learning and not challenging yourself, you're not, in my opinion, living. And
Yeah.
so, but there are definitely times where it feels like you're running that multiple marathon and you're on
Mhm.
the whatever mile and you're like, I'm going to crawl now. Okay, now I'm just going
Mhm.
to stop. I'm just going
Mhm.
to take a time
Mhm.
out. So to your point about the village, there are different people along that journey that are
Mhm.
like, okay, come on, get up, Dani, or here's a glass of water. Like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
looks like you need a rest, or
Yeah.
don't worry, no one's going anywhere. It's
Right.
race is waiting for you to come back whenever you're ready.
Right.
um
Or it's okay to sit here. I'll sit here with you until you're ready.
yeah, that's a beautiful visual too. Yeah, we all need that as well. Like,
Mhm.
oh, you need a timeout, okay, I'll take that with you.
Mhm. Mhm.
um So, how did you become a licensed marriage and family therapist? We had talked in offline, not for everyone to
Mhm.
hear, about your experience working in hospice, social work. You briefly mentioned that
Mhm.
initially, and then the hospital. I just think that's so fascinating. So, would you tell us a little bit about that?
Are you referring to like the process of how one becomes a licensed
Yes,
person? Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. Because I think we talked
Thank you
about
for
that last. Yeah,
clarifying.
yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I just want to make sure that's what you were looking for. Um,
Yeah, I'm gonna follow your lead and have a sip of water too.
hydrate. I'm always like
I
telling
know,
my
self
clients to
care.
hydrate.
Yeah.
Yes, self-care, self-care. Okay, so um I mentioned earlier about getting my master's in clinical psych.
Hmm.
What preceded that on my journey to becoming licensed was like the technical stuff that goes into it is bachelor's, but your bachelor's could be in anything. My bachelor's just,
Hmm.
I happen to love psychology, so that's where I decided to invest my money in,
Hmm.
and and so bachelor's in psychology, bachelor of arts in psychology, and then the next academic step was a master's of arts in clinical psychology. But you can also get a master's of science in psychology.
Okay.
Um, and then from there, before you graduate, you're required to complete, I believe it's 150 hours of uh, therapy, talk therapy with someone licensed, obviously. And then also, you're required to finish, I think it was 1,200 hours of supervised work under someone's license before you graduate. So that's like a huge chunk of hours.
Yes.
And yeah, um, I remember all of us just hustling so hard to get those hours completed before graduation. And, I was very fortunate to find the hospital that I wanted to work at, that I loved the population I worked with. I worked in the intensive treatment unit where I was working with people in pretty high crisis, people that had gotten off their medication, needed to be back on it, were, suicidal, self-harming, um, like the specific diagnoses that you would see very commonly were like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder. And it was a time in my life where I felt the most alive, like working on that unit. And I remember like as a trainee going in and telling my future supervisor, I'm not leaving this unit. Like I want to learn everything there is to know about these people and how to help them. And the protocol was like you go on different units before you complete all your hours. But my intuition was telling me I need to just stay in here and learn as much as I could under the
Hmm.
people that were working there, because these were like, you could tell I could tell right away they were very well respected, and people that had been working on this unit for like over 10 years, so they knew their stuff. And it something in me just said, stay here and learn as much as you can. And so that really served me later on in my private practice when I finally finished all my hours. I'll get back to the technical stuff.
No, this is fascinating. I love it.
so so all the knowledge I'd gained while I was working on the intensive treatment unit at the Loma Hospital, that really served me in my private practice because I felt very equipped to work with anyone who like walked, through my door. And not to say that you don't get a lot of support, like even after you graduate and have all those hours, but it's just for me it was like it was a bit of my own safety net, like just knowing that I had experience working with all these different, like disorders and personality disorders, mood disorders, thought disorders. Um, so so I was on that unit for 7 years. I would from time to time I would fill in for other social workers and therapists on other units, and I had the opportunity to work on a unit called the National Trauma Center was the name of the unit,
Oh, wow.
and that unit in particular was for people that had more severe like self-harm behaviors, eating disorders, um, lots of body image issues, that kind of stuff. So that added, even more to like my experience of, working with people that were having like really big struggles around eating and substance, uh, abuse issues too. So hospital is a really big part, really, really big part of like helping me grow as a therapist. So, and I said earlier, like from all simultaneously while I was in this hospital, I was doing all the other things too.
Wow.
I think it took 2,500 hours, 3,000 hours to complete the requirement for the license. It took me around, I think, 3.5 years, and that's considered like pretty accelerated because a lot of people can't get that many hours. Unless you're working in a hospital setting uh, or insurance company, it's really hard to because you're working full time, in those settings. So like it's
Of course.
quicker, to rack up your hours. But if you're not, it just it's kind of grueling, like getting like the time it takes to finish. Um, so finished my hours. I was in my private practice already, and then I got ready to take the license exam. There are two parts to the license exam, and that's probably the last piece of it is getting your license. And from there, I've continued to have continuing education courses, um, and then like I'm actually not thinking, I'm researching PhD programs right now to go into also.
Of course you
So
are.
so finally, so it's really dangerous to like step away from school and then like try to go back to it because it like in my situation it's taken me 20 years to like get back, but I am I think I'm finally ready to tackle academia again, the writing of it. It's all writing, it's all, but I'm hungry. I feel like I've been starving myself, like with with knowledge, so academic knowledge. I love that. I love being in school. Um, so I'm seeing it as like a gift, a gift that I'm giving myself now.
It feels like it when I listen to you. Like, I'm so happy. You know how emotional I get. I'm so
Yeah.
happy for you. I just think it's so beautiful. And my favorite part about life, even though it doesn't always feel fun when it's you, but
Hmm.
it's whenever I'm on the precipice of something extremely exciting, they're
Hmm.
the same emotions: nervousness,
Yep. Yep.
fear, excitement,
Yep.
anxiety,
Yep.
and this kind of what the F have I just gotten myself into? But with those experiences, I do feel like you have the time. I mean, I've had the time of my life. I can't speak for you, but
Absolutely. Totally
yeah. So
agree.
I'm excited for you because I feel like you're about to experience that again, and I can see your enthusiasm and your passion. And I just think it's so wonderful. And learning is fun.
Learning is so fun. Yeah, I definitely want to be a life learner. Yeah, I think to piggyback on what you're just saying, like the if you are, I know for me, like when I'm experiencing excitement and anxiety, that totally means I'm making the right choice. I'm, making a good decision. So I'm gonna like
I know the feeling.
trust myself on that, and keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, no, I know the feeling. It's almost like at first you're ready to go, and
Hmm.
then I'll have moments where my heels are in the sand. Like I have this visual where my heels are in the sand, and like the universe is pushing me, and it's like, no, you're gonna
Mm.
do this, and I'm like, no, 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 and I'm like, okay, yeah.
That's awesome. I like
But at
that.
first I'm like, get off my back. Yeah. What are you doing? But no, I think that's wonderful. I think that's so exciting. I love
Thanks,
that.
Annie. Thank you for being so
Yeah,
supportive. I appreciate
of course.
that.
You're so
I,
supportive. Meg calls you, I don't know if you know your nickname. I'm sure you do, Mother Teresa.
oh gosh.
I
That's
concur.
Thank you. Thank
Um,
you.
all right, we will segue into the next part.
Okay.
What are the major differences between psychotherapy? Oh, unless you had anything else you wanted to add, I don't want to cut you off.
No, that was a long story, just to say that you have
Oh
to
no, it was
like
interesting.
like get your bachelor's, get your master's, finish your hours, get your therapy before you graduate, and then go forth and finish all these thousands of hours and then pass a test. That was the short
And then you're
answer.
still not done because you do continuing ed,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
Like a lawyer
Yeah.
would, or
Yeah.
any profession.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, okay, so the next question is for the listeners: what is the difference between a psychotherapist, a psychologist, and a psychiatrist?
Okay. So I mentioned before I'm a master's level therapist. And so a psychotherapist is a master's level therapist.
Okay.
And there are other varieties of master's level therapists. There's licensed clinical social workers. In California, there's licensed clinical social workers and licensed professional counselors. In the doctorate world, there's psychologists and people that have what's called a doctorate in clinical psychology.
Okay.
And those are the main difference is like those people have PhDs. We have, and I have a master's, but we're trained identically in how to provide talk therapy.
Okay.
People that are in a PhD program do extra work to have a specialization in something oftentimes, or they are, very interested in a particular topic and do a ton of research on that topic and then write journals or, um, what's equivalent to like a book before they graduate,
Oh wow.
known as a dissertation. So those are like the major differences.
Okay, we'll go to how do you find a good therapist, or just how do you find a therapist these days? You and I have talked offline that there really needs to be a bond between you and the person that you are talking with, right? You and I have
Absolutely.
talked offline about how we've had our unique experiences with people we didn't quite connect with, but we learned from, and we were grateful
Hmm.
for the experience. But um, you did have something you shared with me during the recording that didn't take. that I
Hmm.
wanted you to tell the audience
Okay.
about
Which
finding
story?
a good the one about psychology today, but it wasn't a
Oh, okay.
promotion.
Yeah.
I
Right, right, right. We're not getting paid for this, but
was like, I didn't know
we're gonna
that.
share
Yeah, this is a non-sponsor podcast.
it.
Just
All right. Well, like the most pragmatic way to, I think, these days to find a therapist is actually through a website called Psychology Today. Therapist Finder is the actual page on their website.
okay.
And on that page, you can do a search by insurance company, whatever issues you are identifying that you want to work on, and location, zip code. So, nice, neat, concise, easy,
Right.
easy way to find, not easy, I won't use the word easy, but just, organized way to find someone, I think, to work with. And they also have, like, some people have recorded videos of themselves, or taking photos of their office. You can really get a little sense of who you're going to be working with that way. And the profiles are really fascinating. Like, every therapist is so different. Like, we all have our own way of presenting ourselves. And so you get a sense of who you're, going to be sitting in front of, that way also by looking at their profile. Psychology Today Therapist Finder is the name of the site. I remember as a little person, a younger 20-year-old looking for therapists. I mean, I found my therapist that I still have today that I've been going to group therapy with, all these decades, uh, on a bulletin board in my school. So
Oh my gosh.
I know, isn't that wild? So
That's crazy.
yeah, so he just, like, he was looking for people, young, not young, just students that were
Mhm.
interested in doing a group therapy, traditional, what's called a traditional psychotherapy group.
Okay.
And I was just starting to study psychology, and I read about this term, traditional group psychotherapy, and I thought that looks really fun. That looks really fun. I get to meet some people, and I just had a thought about, like, oh, and I get to have, like, a dad, finally. So so I went with an open mind. But group psychotherapy, that's another option also for people to know about, I think. And on
Mhm.
Psychology Today Therapist Finder, you can do a search by, also type of therapy. You can do a search by group therapy or support group. I'm sorry, support group. Uh, I forget if it's like inpatient, like some sort of, like, more medical term that they use, and then therapist. So you can also do a search that way there. So if you are a student, go look for a bulletin board in your school for counseling. And another common way that people find therapists is by calling their insurance company, and the insurance company will provide a list. Um, and then I mentioned to you before, there's this book called The Rainbow Directory.
Yes.
I don't know if it's online, like free online. I don't think I
Mhm.
told you that before, during
No.
our last meeting, but there is something called a Rainbow Directory that has from A to Z, like literally from A to Z, by county, what human health resources are out in your community. So you can find, like, low cost or free therapy there. You can find information about housing. You can find information about where you can go to, Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous, or, I mean, just like everything to do with surviving if you're in crisis, basically, is
Wow.
in that book. Yeah, it's a really cool book. I mean, you have to. It's yeah, it's the Bible of, like, human health, resources.
Why is that not available in junior high?
I know, isn't that wild? I remember when I first saw that book in the hospital, and I remember thinking, why is this not, like, out, in the library, like, everywhere? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, what a valuable resource to keep hidden. I mean, I know they're
Yeah.
not purposely doing that. And I also want to go back to, I love your candor, and honesty and authenticity before when you said, yeah, and it was my way to find it or to have a dad. Like, I just
Mhm.
think that's so important for people to hear. And you and I've talked
Mhm.
about this, and we'll get into this more, our next episode or the
Okay.
next few,
Mhm.
um, is you're human.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know, therapists are humans that are trying to figure out life as well. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes people have a tendency to do what we do or did when we were kids to our parents and think,
Mhm.
they're superheroes and they're
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
whatever it is that we thought we weren't hadn't didn't have the wherewithal to be like that, or a human that like me, and they're just doing the
Mhm.
best they can, and they have their own challenges and their own, things that they're going through. And
True.
yeah, I don't know, it just burst that bubble, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I think that I think uh, that was definitely a an unconscious draw towards therapy was I was trying to correct things that either wasn't, just like my mom was trying to give me, the things that I couldn't get from her. I was, in my 20s trying to figure out how do I feed myself, how do I get the things I still need to become a human. And I think a surrogate dad was definitely on the agenda, unconsciously.
Yeah.
And I feel like I chose well, and that continued to be my guideline for how I picked sorry, not bosses, but like supervisors that I was going to
Mhm.
be that were going to mentor me. I was very upfront about that actually, and I tell my clients is how important it is to be honest with the people that are going to mentor you. Like if you're looking for someone, if you understand about yourself that you didn't get the best, parenting growing up, you need to be honest with that mentor and say, I'm looking for, a mom or a
Mhm.
dad still, or to get some of those goodies, to get some of that good stuff, because they will be more inclined to offer the specific things that a good, you know, mom or dad can give you too. And it's okay to want that.
Well, and what I love well, I mean, I love everything that you just said, but what I really love is that, we're touching upon really knowing yourself and being
Mm-hmm.
honest with yourself before you enter into, getting the help you need. And I think it's
Mm-hmm.
important. And even if you're completely lost and you're that rubber band ball and you don't know, I mean, I've been
Mm-hmm.
there too, where I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't,
Right.
but when you do know and you have that insight, it's important to be honest throughout the
Mm-hmm.
process and
Mm-hmm.
not be
Mm-hmm.
afraid to vocalize your needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with a therapist. I think you need to be angry with your therapist. I think it's okay to be it's okay to be angry and to express that. It's okay to tell them if, there was something that didn't click, during the conversation with them. And if you're looking for something specific that you don't feel like you're getting, like it's okay to articulate that to them too, so that they can know because they're human. They're not going to know everything, that a client possibly needs. Yeah.
Oh, of course not, right? Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
mind readers. You're not a mind reader, are you? I mean, you
I
kind of
really
are
try not to be.
sometimes.
I
We've
try not
definitely
to be.
shared a thought once or twice, which is very impressive. But, yes, on the general, I would say we're not. Well, therapists are not mind readers. I'm not a therapist, but yeah,
Yeah.
people in general are not mind readers.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Not very good ones anyway.
no.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. And
Right.
then sometimes we project, and then,
Right.
or sometimes we're like off in this land, and yeah. No, I think that's all wonderful, wonderful information. Anything else you want to add?
Where else can you find a therapist? Let me think.
I mean, we talked about, connecting with your friends
Oh,
and
right.
asking them or colleagues or
Yes.
people you're surrounded with, because and
Yes,
you talked
yes, yes.
about, how it's helpful to open up
Yes,
if
yes.
you feel comfortable.
Yes, yes, yes. It is really it's helpful to share your interest in doing therapy with friends that you, people that you trust, because what will inevitably happen is they will tell you, you know, I love working with this person, or I did this therapy with that person, or I know someone, in Torrance,
Mhm.
or like everyone has had some intersection with therapy in their life, most likely that you meet.
Right.
So I think it just, like, not just doing the hard work of sharing your story and what you're looking for and what you need, I think gives other people an opportunity to be vulnerable too, and gives them permission to be, so they will share what they know about therapy if you're looking for a therapist also, or how
Love
they
that.
found their person. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
But
I'm
that's
gonna go to the next one.
okay.
Okay. So I added a couple things that I was thinking
Okay.
about. And I'm trying to decide. I think I'm going to go to this one. Okay.
Okay.
So, a lot of the reasons I went to therapy, and I think this would be
Mhm.
helpful for people who maybe can't afford it or in between or just not
Mhm.
ready
Mhm.
yet, is, and one of the things that I think really got me was I didn't have lessons, or not lessons, I had plenty of lessons
Mhm.
that I failed. I
Mhm.
didn't have the tools on how to deal with difficult people or difficult situations. So, for
Mhm.
example, I didn't even feel comfortable getting out of a conversation that was uncomfortable half the time. And then so in
Mhm.
therapy, I would come in
Mhm.
and I would come in with a list of questions. And one time I would say, how do I get out of talking to someone when I'm uncomfortable
Mhm.
or I just don't want to be involved in the conversation anymore? And, they
Mhm.
provided me with, you could excuse yourself, go, kindly go to the bathroom and things like that. And
Mhm.
there's the one that's more, the justification for behaving in your own best interest is that it's not selfish. And now we've
No,
come
not at
to
all.
be more
Mhm.
vocal these days about how, it's incumbent upon you to take care of you. So if you're not
Mhm.
jiving in a certain situation, it's okay to give yourself that permission to exit stage left, right?
Totally.
So how do you deal with people who invade your space?
Oh, like psychologically, you mean? Like if they're
I wasn't, but
or
yeah,
like
I like that one too. I mean, I guess I put another note, like people who don't respect your boundaries.
uh okay.
Um, so yeah, if you're, um,
Yeah. We're talking about the
I
same
don't know,
thing
like I had,
psychologically.
yeah, I think, yeah. So,
Hmm.
okay.
So boundary work is important for a person to feel safe, and it is necessary to a healthy relationship. And a lot of us are not taught the concept of boundary, and self-care. So in those specific terms, we learn it sort of indirectly, but I think when we become adults, the things that we're taught as little people, a lot of that doesn't transfer over as well. Like we need new tools, new rules, new boundaries. Um, so the process of having good boundaries, the way that good boundaries are developed, is starts with a awareness of the self, that you have boundaries, you're allowed to have boundaries. I have boundaries, I'm allowed to have boundaries, and I can express my boundaries to someone, and that's okay. And that's what I need to do to stay safe in a relationship. I mean, not like safe in the sense that you feel emotionally regulated, not that you need
Hmm.
to like defend against someone who's like harming you, physically or
Right,
emotionally, psychologically,
right.
but just in a healthy relationship, it is normal to have boundaries, and it's necessary to stay emotionally regulated, and to also have a healthy relationship with the self and another person. So yeah, it starts with the awareness and acknowledgement that we have boundaries, and the way that we know that our boundaries are being crossed is through intuition. Um, you'll have that inner voice that's telling you that you feel uncomfortable about something being said or being requested of you. And so, there's part of part of how part of what supports that awareness of that boundary being crossed is acts of self-care throughout the day. Staying rested, making sure you're getting good sleep, making sure that you're resting throughout the day, making sure that you're checking in with yourself. How am I feeling right now? um, I mean, it doesn't have to happen, there's not a particular number of times that you need to check in with yourself, but I know for me it's like once I I'm proactive about doing it at least one time a day. And usually it's at night, actually. It's before I go to
Okay.
bed where I'll check in with myself and say, how am I feeling right now as I'm laying here? And then I'll do like the mental, like run the movie through my mind of how my day looked or what happened during my day.
Hmm.
Um, those are like my check-ins, my regular check-ins that I do. In the effort to do those check-ins, you have more practice at like understanding when you're uncomfortable, or there's something that you want, or you have a goal in mind. And so when you're interacting with another person, you're more inclined, it's a more automatic act to recognize when someone is um, being extra negative, or saying something that feels inappropriate to you, um, or a request that you can't meet. It's not, for whatever reason, like you don't have time, you don't think it's like an appropriate request. I mean, you can just there's so many reasons why, like you would need to have a boundary for that. But But so when I'm in a situation where I'm feeling uncomfortable with someone, my first step is to check in with myself. Okay, that's making me feel uncomfortable. And then I'm actively listening. I'm looking for the request that this person is asking of me.
Hmm.
And sometimes I will, say no right away to the request, or I will say, can I think about it, or I'll get back to you tomorrow.
Hmm.
And I'll sit, I'll explore further, like what it means to me, that I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah. So boundaries is a big one. Boundaries are
Ye-
super important.
Yeah, no. There was a time when I didn't have them and I didn't know anything about them. And
Hmm.
now that I have them,
Hmm.
I think it's everything you said. It's the practicing of it,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
practicing of the self awareness. Because if you're not aware how you're feeling, and then someone
Hmm.
asks something of you and you agree to it, and then later you're angry with yourself, that's a whole different cycle of, you
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
it's actually a whole different conversation. But you know, for me, it was also I had to come to the place of accepting that, I guess. Part of me was like,
Hmm.
oh, does that make me a bad person if I don't want to do
Hmm.
this? Or does that
Hmm.
make me this?
Hmm.
Because I'd been so beaten down or had hung out with the wrong kinds of individuals that didn't appreciate me for me. And somewhere
Hmm.
along the way, I stopped doing that as well. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
when you're not giving yourself that same love that you deserve, or the necessary love that you deserve, it's hard to
Right.
ask for your needs to be met, right?
Right.
So that for me was even uncomfortable. Now it's comfortable for me to say, I don't, I,
Hmm.
what, most of my girlfriends,
Hmm.
it's, that, or most of my friends,
Hmm.
if something comes up when we can't do something,
Hmm.
it's fine. Like there's no
Right.
issue. I mean, it's not even fine. It's good. It's,
Right. Right.
hey, I'm not feeling it.
Mhm.
I want to relax. I'm going to have a glass of wine.
Right. That's them
Let's do something another
asserting
time.
their
Right.
boundary. Right.
Right. They're
Mhm.
asserting their boundary that they need
Mhm.
some personal time.
Mhm.
And I, you know, respect that because I want
Right.
to be able to have that when I feel like that.
Right. Right.
And
You
so
recognize
yeah,
them taking care of themselves. Sorry to cut you off
yeah.
there.
And I admire that and I respect that. And
Mhm.
it's what it's the way I want to be treated. So
Mhm.
it,
Mhm.
if someone's asking something, their boundaries are important. People's boundaries are important to
Mhm.
respect that.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and I think it was an uncomfortable and still is sometimes an uncomfortable learning
Mhm.
experience, to get into the groove of something that you haven't been accustomed to doing as a
Right.
habit,
Totally.
right?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Um, okay, we are almost at 50 minutes. So
Okay.
not that there's a time limit, but we have so much more to cover. So I wanted to ask this one question and
Okay.
to end it because I just think it'll be really interesting.
Okay.
What do you think the purpose of life is?
Dani, I cannot believe
I
you
know
hit
it
me with
couldn't
that
be like
question.
easy.
Whoa, whoa,
Or
whoa.
do you think? Because sometimes you'll ask people, like, I'll say, "What do you think the purpose of life is?" And they'll be like, "What do you mean?" To be kind, to be happy, to be a good, to be the best person you could be. Um, yeah, I was just wondering how you would interpret that question.
Well, I think it's a great question. I didn't mean to like make fun of the
Oh
question
no,
at
no,
all.
no,
I
no.
think
I
it's
mean, I
just
think
my
you're
nervousness
laughing.
making me laughing, but around
Well,
answering
and also
exactly.
it's the fact that I never stay on the surface. I always got I gotta dive down
That's
deep and
fine.
grab
No,
that
that's good.
sand.
That's good. That's good. What is the purpose of life? Is that was that the question again?
Yeah, yeah.
What to
What do
for
you
me?
think yeah, for you?
Mm. I think the purpose of my life is to live my truth. One uh, to live my truth and to have work that is meaningful, um, to love um, and be loved, and to play. I mean, those are the big um, my top four in my life. Like to have a life that has purpose and meaning. I think.
I love
Um,
that.
yeah, I mean, I'm stealing that from Eric Erickson, a very very well known developmental psychologist. He coined the phrase of um, a healthy person is someone who can love work and love work and play. And someone who's not
I
doing
like
well.
that.
Yeah, someone who's not well. There's interference in those areas of their life in some way that is not allowing them to do those things. So, but I think that pretty much like it really encapsulates like what I think I'm here for is to be of service, to help people, to love people, to be loved, to be able to enjoy and have joy through play, um, and to live in my truth, and to assert my truth. Yeah.
I think that's so beautiful. I think that's so beautiful. I
That's
love
a
it.
really good question to ask all of your people that you're interviewing. That'd be so
Well, I
cool, like
actually
to
thought of
hear.
that last night and I was like, I'm going to ask this to everybody because I want to know. I think it's
Yeah.
so interesting. I
Yeah.
feel like I
It's
came
a
out of
good
the
one.
womb looking for the manual to life. So if everyone tells me what they think their purpose is, I'm going to have
Yeah.
like everything
Right.
figured
Right.
out. No, I
You've
won't.
got
But yeah,
a
no,
map.
it's a map, right? I know. Can someone please give me the blueprints to my own plans? I lost them. Um, well, thank you so much for your time. This has been
Oh,
lovely.
Danny, thank you for
And
asking me to be here. I appreciate you. I
yeah,
really, really have fun doing this with you.
I do too. This is just a
Yeah.
pleasure. I'm just, yeah, this was probably one of the best parts of the day. So thank you.
Oh,
And
good.
I just want to let the audience know that there will be other podcasts that Heidi will be on. This is going to be a continuing series. We'll be covering different subjects. And we thank you for listening. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, whatever time of
Mm,
day it is. And just love yourself. That's all. Thank
mm-hmm,
you.
mm-hmm. Thank you, Dani.
Thank you.
Bye.